My family was in Tokyo, and I was brought up at Tokyo. But those days, Tokyo was not a very big town, and half countryside. Near my house, there were forests and any small stream, river, and so on. And nothing cultural tools, cultural toy. And we had to enjoy something, everything in the forest, or everything with the plants and animals. First, when I was junior secondary school, there was nothing to, there was no cultural matter to enjoy. So I began to identify the plants of the school garden, and I identified each plant about 100 species. So I could I could so familiar I could become so familiar to plants. Mostly I have forgotten, but anyway, it was the first. And secondly, uh, then I, I advanced to the university and the biology, particularly biology, because um, I expected to become the school teacher. For becoming a school teacher, which which field is best for me? I I thought, and if I I study biology, even even if I come to the countryside as a teacher of the secondary school or primary school, there may be many kinds of plants and animals. So anywhere, if I go, there may be sufficient materials for me. Even among biology, in the, as a teacher of the countryside, perhaps the ecology is best. Without any research tools, ecology must be possible for me. And when I was the undergraduate student, the first target of my research was sand crab. Sand crab dig a hole under the seashore, and during the daytime, crabs come up to the surface of the seashore and pick up the sand and filter the fragments of organisms or plankton. And around the hole, they take the sand to eat organisms. But during the summer, many larvae of the crab come up to the seashore from the sea, and population density becomes very higher up. And so the territory around the hole is a territory of a certain club, and the territory becomes smaller and smaller because there are so many adjacent clubs, and they display each other to expel the adjacent clubs. So that I became interested to the social behavior and food, uh, amount of food and social behavior. Then I, I interested in the social behavior of animals for the study of social behavior of animals. There was a study group in Kyoto. So I came to Kyoto from Tokyo. It was my first visit to Kyoto. In Kyoto, the ecology department, there were three groups. One is sea group, particularly at the coastal sea. Some people are working on fishes and other sea animals. And the second group was river group. They were studying on the sweet fish. Sweet fish is ayu in Japan. Ayu study, but I'm not keen in swimming, so it was not so good for me. And the third group was monkey group. For the study of social behavior and social organization and society of animals, monkey must be best, I thought. So I began to work on monkeys. In the department, there was no professor working on monkeys. But anyway, uh, the forerunners of primatology in Japan were all graduate of Kyoto University. So many times they came to the department, and they had a group of primate research group, and I also joined to that group. But unfortunately, those forerunners of primate group were interested in human nature in non-human primates. But I interested in the ecology of monkeys, ecology and social society of the animals, of course, including human nature, but human nature was one of the many peripheral items. And I began to work on monkeys. Though, when I began the study of monkeys, already Japanese monkeys were provisioned. So my forerunners worked on the social behavior at provisional place, feeding place. But I wonder if the behavior of monkeys at a provisional place, feeding place, they are, those behaviors are the nature of monkeys or not. Of course, a part of the nature, but not all. The feeding place is only a part of the monkey's daily life. So every day I walked with the monkeys in the hill, and it is Takasakiyama. Every day I walked from morning to evening with monkeys to the top of the hill. The top of the hill is 628 meters high. Every day from seaside to the 600 meters. Morning I go up. I went up to the top and come down with the monkeys. Monkeys every day came down to the feeding place. And afternoon or late afternoon, they went up to the ridge of the hill between 500 meters and 600 meters. So every day I went up to the ridge of the hill, and in the evening, late evening, came down. And next morning, before monkeys began to move, I went up to the hill and went back. So two times every day. I'm not a sportsman, but I became very strong. As I walked with the monkeys every day, I found the beginning of the group fission. One group was gradually divided into two, and one part came down to the feeding ground, then another part came. And nobody knew the group was dividing into two. But I found the beginning of the group fission. So I followed the details of the group fission. Perhaps it was the first finding of group living animals, divisional process of the group living animals. I wanted to continue the field study at Takasakiyama, but when the first year of the doctor course, that is the third year of graduate course, and my professor, Rockefeller Foundation, requested my professor to work on Indian monkeys, langurs. The langur, the main topic of the monkey study was epidemiology, because ticks, and this ticks transmit the virus disease near to the spring fever, which was expanded in Russia. Near to the spring fever, it was called my langurs disease was Chassanur forest disease, called this Chassanur forest disease. But it propagate, expand very, very slowly. And why it expands so slowly, no medical people understood why so slow. So they have to know the behavior of monkeys. And so we were invited. Those days, Japan was after the war, and Japanese cannot go to the abroad so easily because maximum $500 can be taken, not more, maximum 500. It was not possible to work in the abroad. But it was Rockefeller's fund, so any amount possible. When I came to Kyoto, I wanted to work on sweet fish because there was a very excellent study on the resource amount between the research between resource amount and social behavior. So I was interested in the economics and sociology, synthesis of economics and sociology. So I wanted to work on sweet fish, but as I said, I'm not keen in swimming. And also another point, for the study of social behavior, monkeys must be best. So I came to monkeys. But I didn't know my forerunners were only interested in the human nature, not ecology. So I was alone most of the time, not with those foreigners. And if I couldn't find the troop division, I might have I must have continued to be alone. But fortunately, the troop division was one of the sociological phenomenon. So I could come with those foreigners. It's okay, I was allowed. But then I came to India, and at India also, I first made the extensive survey to find a good group for the intensive study. But that was also hated. No need to extend work. Why you don't begin to pick up only one group and identify each individual? But before pick up one group, I spent some months for extensive survey. So my foreigner in the research group at India, Japanese foreigner, hated me. Go back to Japan. But fortunately, those extensive studies were later, they had much value because during the extensive studies, I I observed the males attack the group, bisexual group. But those days, during the extensive studies, I didn't understand what is happening. But later, I found the males, outside males attack the group and killed all the infants. Then I understood those phenomena I observed during the extensive studies. That was the troop takeover and also infanticide. I didn't see, those days I didn't see exactly, but later I confirmed many such kind of phenomena occurs so frequently. I think during the Takasakiyama studies, why I succeeded. I did because I did a different way. I walked different way from my foreigners. If I was also worked at feeding ground, then data must be same as my foreigners. Before provisioning succeeded, my foreigners walked with monkeys in the hill. But after provisioning, they stopped to walk in the hill. And they only observed monkeys in the feeding ground. So the behavior of monkeys in the hill was vacant. Nobody there. It was a chance. In the vacant area, succeed or failed, nobody knows. But the possibility was there. My method to suggest new students, new graduate students, first go to the field before teaching anything and observe monkeys or animals or anything. And he or she came back. What you found? What you observed? Is it the same as the textbook? If you find anything different from textbook, you may see again. Perhaps your observation was a mistake. But in a few cases, it may be true, different from textbook. Then you again try to see. It is truly true. Then why different from textbook? You continue to study this like this. So I don't teach students anything. Everybody is a scientist. as far as he wants to know the details of the things, phenomenon. There are many textbooks and books related which you want to know. But sometimes still it is difficult to find any books what you want to know. Then it is possible to search what is this phenomenon. If you have any question, that becomes science. So if there is no question, he may not be the scientist. At present, human nature in the non-human primates is the main point for me, even for me. Until the sociobiology came into Japan, our primatology forerunners were not interested in sociobiology or biological aspect of monkeys. And humans are different from other animals, but only monkeys have the origin of human nature. Monkeys have the origin of human nature. So they were interested in those characters into monkeys. But after the sociobiology, even in Japan, the anthropology also accepted biological aspects. Then, not only monkeys, but also other animals are samples of the anthropology. And now, of course, anthropology accepts the biological aspects. Of course, sociobiology are accepted in anthropology. So human nature is also found in all animals, not only monkeys, but also other animals, even in plants. That's a biology. Even the cultural anthropology must accept biology. When I finished master course by the troop division of Takasakiyama monkeys, first year of doctor course, I wanted to search the monkeys purely in the wild. So nearly 1 year, I walked around the Japanese hillside. But anyway, those days, without provisioning, no observation was possible. Monkeys are very shy, and even if the walking in the hill 1 month, only once or twice, 3 times in the hill, more than 100 meters observation. So no research possible. At the corner of the country, I got information. There, chimpanzees come to the village, but not present in the wild. So I tried to went there, and in fact, chimpanzee group was living near the village, and many times villagers saw chimpanzees. So it was, I thought it is possible to habituate those chimpanzees, and I decided to work more there. Unfortunately, the group was very small, but those days I couldn't get the research fund so much. So only every 2 years, every 3 years I could go there. But still, there were only 21 individuals. But as there were 20 or 21 individuals, I could continue to recognize each animal, each chimpanzee. Even after 1 year absent, I could continue to recognize all individuals. So the group was small. It was, in one side, it was fortunate for me. And in another side, from the long time viewpoint, it was not good. Too small. It was too small. But anyhow, the group was small. I could continue the study of both chimpanzee group, even though every 3 years, every 2 years, every 3 years like this, but I could continue. There also, fortunately, I found the nut cracking behavior by chimpanzees. Even before me, there were some papers. There may be chimpanzee work. Yes, Strudecker at Senegal, no, Cote d'Ivoire. Well, anyway, West Africa, he found some stones, perhaps chimpanzees cracked nuts, but he didn't observe the behavior itself. So, and also during 1950s or 60s, there was a traveler's novel or something like that. Chimpanzee cracked nuts by stones. But it was not a scientific paper. So the first chimpanzee's nut cracking behavior was exactly observed by me, and first published by me. So I could continue to study. I could get next fund. Otherwise, I had to stop. It was in the first floor. There were many bushes, and I couldn't see exactly. Just through the bush, I observed. More than half an hour, I could continue to observe. So it was true, but it was not possible to take photo. At least the first time, it was not possible to take photo. So it took some time, some years to get good photo. It was 1967 or so, and fortunately, gradually chimpanzees accustomed to my observation. In 1989 or so, NHK came to take the movie. Then NHK got very good movie of nutcracking. So I could use this. When first presented nutcracking behavior at IPS, some people requested me to take photo, to show photo. Without a photo, I presented my observation of nutcracking. And so some people requested me the photo. It took a few years. Many years ago, I was thinking that conservation is leave themselves in the wild, no need to touch. But now, human society changed, and if the natural condition is left as themselves, exactly many people come to disturb the ecosystem. And also, even without disturb, temperature is changing, global temperature is changing. So artificially, we have to maintain, the ecosystem artificially. Artificially, we have to maintain natural ecosystem. Very funny, but anyway, we have to do. Anyway, we are human evolution occurred, eating animals and plants. So if you want to change the human evolution, the way may be different. But if we accept the human evolution, we have to continue to eat animals and plants. And some Europeans and Americans say domestic animals can be eaten, but wild animals no. But both are living animals. So anything we can eat, we have to consume. Otherwise, we cannot survive. So we can consume animals and plants. The point is the ecosystem must be sustainable, must be maintained. So as far we have to consider the ecosystem is maintained we are not disturbing the ecosystem too much. If not disturbing too much, we can consume. But not I myself, but you yourself. Many people there are. If I catch and kill animal, and another one also does, and another one does, then it becomes difficult to continue the ecosystem. So that difference of those many people are interested in killing animals, eating animals. Such kind of situation also must be in the consideration. Not I myself. There are so many people in the world. When animals are living, they must be as free as possible. As possible. And apart from experiment in our families, the domestic animal, pets, must be more free as much as possible. I came to this institute in 1970. When I was in Kyoto, I was assistant professor, and I was promoted to the associate professor here, 1970. First, the Monkey Center made in 1957 or so. Then 1962, Department of Anthropology in Kyoto University. When next year, 1963, I became assistant professor at Anthropology Department, Kyoto. My forerunners wanted to build independent institute for primate studies. I was assistant professor there, and many applications wrote with my forerunners and sent to Monbusho, Monbu Kagakusho. Each time, ministry refused and should be modified and modified, or decalculated and again rewritten. Then 1967, institute was built. The original scheme of the institute, based on the Japanese monkey studies, changed so much. So many people came from Tokyo University. About 1/3 from Tokyo University, about 1/3 from Kyoto University, and another 1/3 from some other universities. Nobody had studied the monkeys before that time, except from Kyoto University. Some medical people worked on brains. Some people worked on hormones or some other part of primates. So many people from different places, they gathered. It was very difficult to understand each other. So they wanted to continue their own work in the same institute. Those studies were different. It took many years to join each other. It took more than 10 years to join each other. We prepared the field for the anatomical studies, for physiological studies, and so on. Then those people of physiology, of neurophysiology, anatomies, came to the field. From that day, people in the different field came in synthetic primatology. Now it is better, far better than the first stage of the institute. Any people can make joint work with different fields of the primates. I am searching the new topic only to search in primates. It is not sufficient to search the new topic from more wide range, at least from other mammals, or possibly from bird or insects or something. So now I'm reading books of mammals. So in the seminar, the other day, I talked about wolves and again whales and so on. So next, I'm searching the books of bears, but not yet found any new topics. The maybe problem, maybe same as students. We have to write the scientific papers in English. Very unfortunate for Japanese. And the scientific articles are not read by many Japanese people. Only primatologists and the related scientists of related field. So we have to write in Japanese. Otherwise, no Japanese understand what those people are working on monkeys. What is monkey study? Very few people understand. So we have to write in Japanese. Heavy work for us. If I write a book in Japanese, perhaps many young students may have interest in this kind of science. and if possible, some may come to this field. ちょっと英語で言うの難しいな。あんまりとんがってないでもう少しうまくやったらって。Thank you. これ、全部撮ってたわけ ?2 時間。これ編集が大変だよ。